Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to the Prabhupada. Sorry for the late start. Again, my computer was messing with me. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 3, which is entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura. And this morning we're doing text 44. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadari, Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari, Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari, Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivājakacārya Stotra Satashishi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivājakacārya Stotra Satashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopana Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Brahmanande. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Sri Guru and guṇānām. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tere Swami Namani. Namaste Krishna Varaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Gaura Karuni Shakti Bhakti Tere. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 44. Ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karma-ṇy akartur grahaṇāya puṁsām anyathā rhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām karma-tantram. Ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karma-ṇy akartur grahaṇāya puṁsām anyathā rhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām karma-tantram. Ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karma-ṇy akartur grahaṇāya puṁsām anyathā rhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām karma-tantram. Hare Krishna. Please chant.
ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karma-ṇy akartur grahaṇāya puṁsām nanv ko arhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām karma-tantram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karmāṇi akartur grahaṇāya puṁsām nanvan anyathā ko rhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām karma-tantram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karma-ṇy akartur grahaṇāya puṁsām anyathā rhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām karma-tantram.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna.
Please go on.
Could you please scroll up, Prabhuji? Thank you. Ajasya janmotpatha-nāśanāya karma-tantram grahaṇāya puṁsām nanv rhati deha-yogaṁ paro guṇānām akartur. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We do word for word now. Ajasya of the unborn. Janma, appearance. Nāśanāya, for the sake of annihilating the upstarts. Karmāṇy, works. Akartur, of one who has nothing to do. Grahaṇāya, to take up. Puṁsām, of all persons. Anyathā, otherwise. Who, rhati, may deserve. Deha-yogaṁ, contact of the body. Paro, transcendental. Guṇānām, of the three modes of nature. What to speak of. Karma-tantram, the law of action and reaction. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? Report by Srila Prabhupada. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Brahma Samhita, Chapter 5, Verse 1. The form of the Lord is eternal, blissful, and all-satisfying. His so-called birth is therefore an appearance only, like the birth of the sun on the horizon. His birth does not, like that of living entities, take place under the influence of material nature and the bondage of the reactions of past deeds. His works and activities are independent pastimes and are not subject to the reactions of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 14, it is said, Namam karmāṇi limpanti, name karma phaleshviha, iti mam hyo vijanahati, karmabir nasa bhadyate. The law of karma, enacted by the Supreme Lord for the living entities, cannot be applicable to him, nor has the Lord any desire to improve himself by activities like those of ordinary living beings. Ordinary living beings work for the improvement of their conditional lives. But the Lord is already full of all opulence, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Why should he desire improvement? No one can excel him in opulence, in any opulence, and therefore the desire for improvement is absolutely useless for him. One should always discriminate between the activities of the Lord and those of ordinary living beings. Thus one may come to the right conclusion regarding the Lord's transcendental position. One who can come to the conclusion of the Lord's transcendence can become a devotee of the Lord and can at once be free from all the actions of past deeds. It is said, karmāṇy nidhāti kintu cha bhakti bhajam. The Lord minimizes or nullifies the reactionary influence of the devotee's past deeds. Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, verse 54. The activities of the Lord are to be accepted and relished by all living beings, living entities. His activities are to attract the ordinary man towards the Lord. The Lord always acts in favor of the devotees, and therefore ordinary men who are fruitive actors or seekers of salvation may be attracted to the Lord when he acts as protector of the devotees. The fruitive actors can attain their goals by devotion and service, and the salvationists can also attain their goal in life by devotion and service to the Lord. The devotees do not want the fruitive results of their work, nor do they want any kind of salvation. They relish the glorious superhuman activities of the Lord, such as his lifting Govardhan hill and his killing the demon Putana in infancy. His activities are enacted to attract all kinds of men, karmis, jnanis, and bhaktas. Because he is transcendental to all laws of karma, there is no possibility of his accepting a form of maya as is forced on the ordinary living entities who are bound by the actions and reactions of their own deeds. The secondary purpose of his appearance is to annihilate the upstart asuras and to stop the nonsense of atheistic propaganda by less intelligent persons. By the Lord's causeless mercy, the asuras who are killed personally by the personality of Godhead get salvation. The meaningful appearance of the Lord is always distinct from ordinary birth. Even the pure devotees have no connection with the material body. And certainly the Lord, who appears as he is, in his Satchidananda form, is not limited by a material form. Oma Ginati Virandisya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshum Ummilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manofishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam. Mama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Simadi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirveshesha Sanivadi Paschatya Deshadani. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gautishe Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shri Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation again. The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? So in this chapter, Questions by Vidura, that's the title of it. And so Vidura has asked a lot of questions about the welfare of those that matter to him and the pure devotees of the Lord. He's asked about the Pandavas. He's asked about the Yadavas. He's asked about, he's even gone to the point where he brought up, he didn't ask about, but he just brought up the Dhritarashtra and says he feels sorry for him. Because he got so taken in by his son Duryodhana. And Duryodhana was up to no good. And still, this man supported him. So he was in designation mode. This is my son. Just like some people still do. This is my country. This is, and Srila Prabhupada's already given commentary about this. Yashatma buddhi kunape tridatuke swadi kalatra dishiboma ichedi yateta buddhi salilena kaiche jyaneshu abhigeshu saeva gokara. Those who think that Yashatma buddhi kunape tridatuke, that this body of theirs is just them, this lump matter, kapha vita vayu, mucus, bile, and air in this body is actually them who think that their nation is worshipable, and their wives are their property, and their children are their property. Those that who go to divine, it's called pilgrimage places. And speaking about that, Vidura himself was going on pilgrimage places, but he was going on pilgrimage places for the right reasons. People go to pilgrimage places, they'll dump their karma into the river, the sacred river. Oh, I'm finished. Go to the stores, buy a few things. Now they go. Ganeshu Abigeshu, you have to ask those who are there, the sadhus who are there, for not only the history, but the spiritual significance of the place of pilgrimage. And that is exactly what Vidura is doing. And then by Krishna's arrangement, he meets Uddhava. And that's where we are at now. We're asking questions to Uddhava. Questions by Vidura that was posed to Uddhava. And Uddhava is a very close confidant of Sri Krishna. What a wonderful person, because Vidura decided to go for all the right reasons. Krishna also arranged for him to meet one of those persons that would really, really, really talk, converse with him about Krishna in such a way that you couldn't be, Uddhava was so close to Krishna. So hearing from him, you would hear things that in some of it, of course, will be confidential, and some of it too will be things to praise Krishna. And in this text, Vidura is making a point. The appearance of the Lord, he comes for the annihilation of the upstarts. And by the way, the upstarts are called the demons, thinking that they have control. But sometimes when somebody does something that's bad, they're called an upstart. Maharaj Chitraketu was called an upstart by Lord Shiva's wife, Parvati, when he literally laughed to Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva was giving spiritual discourse to a bunch of saints, sages who are renounced, but Parvati was sitting on his lap when he was doing that. So Chitraketu, coming in his wonderful airplane donated by Lord Vishnu, thought that I wouldn't do something like that. Why is Lord Shiva, who's supposed to be so renounced, talking to people who are also renounced with his wife sitting on his lap? Lord Shiva ignored it, but Parvati did not. Parvati called Chitraketu an upstart. In other words, you don't know much. That's what she implied. You don't know much. You're reading into my sitting on my husband's lap as something that is like a sexual invitation in front of people who are renounced. You're thinking like that. But you're an upstart. You don't know much of the deeper aspects of why we do what we do. So this is how, and then Parvati cursed him. And that's how he wound up becoming a demon who finally got liberated in his fight with Indra. But anyway, the Lord, the appearance of the Lord, is for the annihilation of the upstarts. So, yeah, that demon is Vritrasura. He got liberated, actually, after his fight with Indra, and he got killed. So, the Lord's activities are transcendental, and they are enacted for the understanding of all persons. So, Krishna says, Janma karma chame devyam evam yo viti tatvata Tyaktaveham punai janmani eti mam eti so Arjuna. Says the one who understands that my birth, my appearance, and my activities are transcendental, that person gains entrance into the spiritual world. Why? Because the person who thinks in that way, who believes that Krishna's appearance and Krishna's activities are all transcendental, will not connect any of Krishna's activities to what we know in this mundane material life that we're living. And so then the person understands Krishna to a good extent. You can't understand Krishna totally because he's unlimited. But that understanding that everything that Krishna does is at a transcendental level. And therefore, then there are some people who like this, they just hear some pastime of Krishna and say, why is he acting like that? He's disobeying the laws of what laws? He's above every law. That's the transcendental thinking about Krishna. Krishna is above all laws. Krishna cannot do wrong. He does not do wrong. So when we understand it that way, then Krishna says that person will gain entry because they will surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that would give them entrance to the spiritual world. Krishna says his activities are enacted for the understanding of all persons, including those in the material world. Otherwise, if the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and goodness, passion, and ignorance are what operate things here. To take, I'm going to get into that. If goodness, passion, and ignorance are what operate things in the material world, and he's above that, then why would he come to the material world? Why would he come to the earth? The earth is part of the material world. But because, even though his activities are transcendental, they are done for the understanding of all persons. And his devotees take delight in the pastimes that the Lord puts out, for lack of a better way to put it. And also the annihilation of the demons. And when they were in Vrindavan and Kansa was sending one demon after another every single day, the cowherd boys enjoyed the way Krishna killed them. He was ridding the earth of all of these demons, which was what Mother Bhumi wanted. But at the same time, the cowherd boys thought it was a wonderful spectacle every time that he got rid of a demon. Because every demon was not gotten rid of the same way. Every time, it was a custom way. Krishna designed a different way to get rid of that particular demon. So, of course, demons were causing trouble on the earth. And by getting rid of them, Krishna was creating a wonderful transcendental spectacle for the cowherd boys. And they loved it. And they would go home and tell their parents, Krishna, there was this demon, he was like this, tried to attack Krishna, and Krishna killed the demon. This is how he killed him. Always telling their parents something like that. What happened? So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada starts quoting chapter 5, text 1 of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvara controller. Parama is topmost. Krishna. Krishna is the topmost controller. So there are other controllers. Demigods are controllers for what has been assigned to them. But Krishna is the supreme controller. No one is at his level or above him. And his form is Satchidananda Vigraha. As we are part and parcels of Krishna at the soul level, at the spiritual level, we are also Satchidananda. Our form is like that. But right now we are in a tiny atomic form in the heart of this body that we're using for a temporary period. And so we have the consciousness, this body appears conscious, this body acts consciously because the soul is there. But the soul is Satchidananda, it's eternal, full of knowledge, and eternal means it doesn't die, full of all knowledge, and also full of bliss. Bliss is the highest happiness that one can have, bliss. Krishna is like that. That's why we are like that. So his so-called birth is therefore an appearance only. Just like our birth at the spiritual level is not really true. The soul doesn't take birth. The soul only appears in the body. The soul appears in the body. But the body is the one that goes through all the changes of birth and forming in the fetus, as it's called, and then coming out of the womb of the woman or the female species, depending on what kind of body the soul gets. And at that time, the soul is already, when the person dies, or when that living entity dies, again, the soul is not dead. So the soul will only appear and disappear. Appears at birth, disappears at death for us. And the Lord is also very much, because he's like that, we are like that. He comes in appearance only. And Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy of the sun on the horizon. The sun never gets extinguished. At the time that the material world is present, the sun is present. And it just appears at certain times, depending on the area of the earth that we are at, and other times too, it appears somewhere else. And sometimes, depending on the orientation of the earth, it would appear at a certain time, and different orientation means it would appear at different times. And after a while, because of the rotation of the earth, we don't see anymore the sun, and therefore it gets dark. But it doesn't mean the sun has died. It doesn't take birth and die, it just appears. So that's the point that Srila Prabhupada is trying to make. And Krishna's activities are independent pastimes. They're not subject to the reactions of material nature like we are. Like we are. Our activities are based on the reactions of material nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the law of karma is not applicable to him. It's applicable to living entities, and it's not applicable to him. And he doesn't have any desire to improve himself by any activities. He doesn't have any desire to improve himself. But we do. Ordinary living entities, oh, how can we improve this? We use some things for a while and say, okay, we don't want it anymore. Get rid of it and go buy something that's supposed to be more sophisticated than what we had before. We try to improve our situation of money just so we can live life that we say is better than what we used to live before we got extra money. But the Lord doesn't have to go through any of that because he's already full of all opulence. And actually, devotees are also to live a life only, like in one sense, you have to live a renounced life, only using those material things that are necessary to keep the body and soul together. That is a devotee's life. And everything else is not important. So, we need to live a renounced life because Krishna himself, he lives also a life of renunciation. And his is very, very interesting. The renunciation. He owns everything. So does he renounce everything? How can he renounce when he's the owner of everything? Well, the Shastra explains what renunciation means. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Brahma says, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme. And so when he does some things that are menial, simple, doesn't require much thinking, like driving Arjuna's chariot in the Battle of Kurukshetra, like in the Rajasuya sacrifice at Indraprastha, that Krishna took the responsibility of washing the feet of those who came. Those are all simple things, menial things. When he does that, then he's exhibiting his opulence of renunciation, or his quality of renunciation. That's how it's explained in the Shastra. So, if he owns everything, there's no point in proving anything then. Everything is everything is for him. Everything we use here, sometimes we say we own things, but do we really? Well, let's look at it. When we're born, what do we have? What do we come with? Nothing. This physical body, we are in it, we are the soul, we get born, and everything is already here on this earth. When we die, can we take anything with us? No. When we die, the soul is gone, the body is left behind, and the soul does not take anything. Hmm? The body can't survive. It's just not functional anymore. So we can't take anything with us when we die. We're born with nothing. We leave with nothing. So do we really own anything here? Everything that's here is been given to us for a period of time called a lifetime. Hmm? That's all. But we don't have ownership. Just like if you rent an apartment to live in it, you are living in it. You're using the things in the apartment. You're using the utilities in the apartment. But do you own the apartment? It's owned by the landlord. And at some point, you'll have to leave the apartment. So it's like that. We don't own anything. So Krishna owns everything. And since Krishna owns everything, he does not need any improvement of anything. He's actually unlimited. Unlimited. But we can't say unlimited means that he's improving. He's just working based on, well, he's just getting things based on his own desire or making things happen by his will. That's all. So no one can excel him or surpass him in opulence. And he gives so much opulence to those who are in the spiritual world. The spiritual world planets themselves are much, much, much bigger than any material universe. The spiritual world planet is bigger than the universe. Of course, in the universes, there are some that are bigger than others, universes in the material world. So it's given in the Shastra, and I did some calculation about it, to arrive at the answers that a spiritual planet is between 1 million and 2 million times bigger than a material planet. Material universe. A spiritual planet is 1 million to 2 million times bigger than the material universe with all the planets in it. The smaller universes, well, in the material world, then the spiritual planet is about 2 million times bigger. And the bigger ones, the bigger universes, spiritual planet is about 1 million times bigger. So there's no comparison. If you think about the wealth, then the opulence in even one spiritual planet, nothing in the material universe is compared to the spiritual planet's wealth. And we don't even live in the universe. We live inside the universe, but we live on a planet, one planet. And the planet we live on is Earth. Yet people say they are trillionaires and everything based on the wealth that is on the Earth. But the Earth is one small planet in a small universe, which is 1/2 millionth of a spiritual planet. Spiritual planet is 2 million times bigger than the universe itself. So can you imagine how much wealth is there? And Krishna makes that available to everyone in the spiritual world. So we shouldn't clamor for things in the material world. We should prepare to go home. Because everything way beyond what we can imagine now is there in the material world. In the spiritual world. So one can come to the right conclusion regarding the Lord's transcendental position. Srila Prabhupada says, when we come to the right conclusion of the Lord's transcendence, that's why we made a little bit of comparison about what's in the wealth in the spiritual planet compared to even the material universes. Doesn't come close. So one who understands the Lord is transcendental, then they surrender to the Lord, and the person becomes a devotee of the Lord. And then that person can be free of karma, reactions of past deeds. The big advantage of becoming a devotee is devotees don't work based on karma. Devotees' account of their deeds is transferred. The account is transferred to the Lord himself. The Lord as Paramatma, the Super Soul. The super soul takes care of the devotee in terms of guidance and also in terms of making a note of the devotee's activities. Now, one of the things we were talking about the other day is, yes, when a person, before they come to this earth or come to the material world, however many percentage, what the percentage of convenience, I don't call it happiness anymore, convenience and distress, percentage of distress, that's set up. That doesn't change. But when a person becomes a devotee, then that type of karma is not, even though the percentages remain the same, but the activities change. Because the person now is not living a karmi life anymore. They are living a devotee life. And so even the negative things that are supposed to happen based on karma now are changed to lessons that the person is supposed to learn. And sometimes in the lessons, there are some, times that you learn things the hard way. We call it troublesome situation. But it's all now based on how we can improve our lives as devotees. So when a person becomes a devotee, that's the change that happens. And also, the Lord minimizes the reactionary influence of the devotee's past deeds. He's already saying that. That if you surrender to Him, then He'll take care of the activities that are to fructify the negative, the simple reactions that are to come later. Even those won't come in later lives. If you're a karmi, then you go through this body, karmis go through this body, then after that there's another one, and another one after that, another one. And so the deeds that are supposed to be taken care of in terms of his simple reactions, they come sometimes in different lives. As Dhritarashtra learned, when he killed 100 birds, little birds, in a nest. At that time, he was a hunter, Dhritarashtra, the father of Duryodhana, and the other 99 sons. He burned the nest, flaming arrow. He aimed it at the nest, and burned the nest and all the 100 birds. The mother got out. The mother bird got out, but she was blinded. And so Krishna explained when Dhritarashtra asked, how come I was born blind? My mother could have just opened his eyes and I wouldn't be born being able to see. Krishna says, 50 lifetimes ago, you were a hunter, the story that we just talked about. You shot an arrow and killed 100 birds. Mother bird was blinded. Now, that time, the war hadn't started. But that part was to explain, Krishna was explaining to Dhritarashtra, that's why 50 lifetimes later, how things unfolded in the situation. You had to get to a situation where you also will have 100 sons, just like that bird had 100 little birds. Now, that wasn't direct or maybe indirect indication that the sons were going to get killed. But Dhritarashtra did not think like that. He was only concerned about his blindness. He asked about his blindness, so the Lord explained. But in explaining it, he also said that you killed 100 by yourself, 100 little birds, 100 children of that mother bird. And sure enough, when the Kurukshetra war happened and it was finished, Dhritarashtra had 100 sons. The 100 sons were killed by one person, Bhima. One person, just like that one hunter, Dhritarashtra, whatever his name was at that time, he killed 100 birds. So there is karma. But when becomes a devotee, then the karmic reactions, they get taken care of by the Lord. So by being a devotee, there's a huge advantage to that. So be a devotee also means the activities of the Lord, they are accepted and relished by devotees. But Srila Prabhupada says even all living entities relish the activities of the Lord. Those who turn their attention to the Lord. The activities of the Lord are for everyone to see. Some people may codify the Lord in a different way, but they still get excited about the things that he's able to do. Some think he's a magician. Some think he's just a very, very advanced soul. But they don't realize that he's a Supreme Personality. The devotees do. Mm. So the Lord also always acts in favor of the devotees. Mm. So when we get attracted to the Supreme Lord, as we say, 4 kinds of people come to the Lord. The distressed, the inquisitive, and those that are penniless, and those that are seekers of knowledge. Srila Prabhupada explains it so nicely in the Bhagavad Gita. Those kind of people, 4 kinds of people come. And so they come in many ways as karmis. Inquisitive about Krishna, penniless, they're not thinking in terms of, they're thinking materially. How can I, the Lord is supposed to be the most wealthy. He owns everything, so if I pray to him, I get some money if I ask him for it. So I'll go to God. So they come like that. But they kami thinking. They're thinking like karmis. How I can get money for my sense gratification. But by coming, Krishna can change them through his devotees and through the spiritual master. And they become devotees. And he also can attract other non-devotees by how he protects his own devotees. So if he protects so nicely and people hear about it, they go, well, then I should be around the Lord then, because it seems like he's got the best way to protect. So that way also, people who are non-devotees are pulled to the Lord by the Lord's activities. So the Lord comes to the material world to put on a transcendental show to get people excited and to leave, to want to be with him. And wanting to be with him automatically says, you leave. You're going to go to material, you go to leave the material world and go to the spiritual world by being with Krishna. You say yes to Krishna, you're going home. His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj explained in one lecture that I was listening to that anyone that says yes to Krishna goes back to Godhead. In your mind, if you submit to Krishna, you go back to Godhead. The question is, do you go back to Godhead after this life, this body, or come back in human body 1 or 2 times, then go? Krishna will help us if we're not able to finish what we're supposed to do. As Srila Prabhupada says, finish your transcendental business, finish your devotee business, and go this lifetime. Leave this and go. That's the best situation because the world doesn't get better. We're in Kali Yuga. So if you come back, you come into a worse situation. It doesn't matter what your karma is. You come back, you come to a worse situation. So nobody should think, well, I should just live my life in such a way that I will rack up some good karma so that my next life will be nice. Yeah, but the next life could be involving you being wealthier than you are this life. But what is life around you? If you're born on the earth, what is the earth going to be like? There's a whole bunch of atomic bombs that haven't gone off yet. You want to come back in that situation with that threat? And in fact, maybe the next time the person comes back is when they're going to use the bombs. Then what? Then what happens? So Srila Prabhupada says, finish the business. If you've said yes to Krishna, then go through everything it takes. Hear the spiritual master, get initiated, chant 16 rounds, which is itself Guru's mercy. A devotee is supposed to chant 64 rounds. But we chant 16 rounds, and the mercy has been given by Krishna on the request of Srila Prabhupada. That devotees chant 16 rounds and still be allowed back in the spiritual world. The Vaishnava is supposed to chant 64 rounds. But we should make that a point every day to chant the prescribed number of rounds as a minimum. And even better, chant more than 16 rounds. So, Krishna also comes to annihilate the demons. This atheistic propaganda that's put out by less intelligent persons. He cuts right into it. So, The pure devotees, they also help us by living a life which has no real connection with the material body. We just use everything for Krishna's service. And that's the way we should think. And I see Prabhupada quoted Bhagavad Gita, Transcendental Knowledge, Chapter 4, Text 14. Namam karmāṇy limpati, name karma kalesh viha, itimam yo abhijanati, karma bir nasabhadite. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me, also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. See, we, or some of us, think in terms of karma, karmic work, fruitive reactions. What can I get from this that I'm doing? Krishna says no work affects him. And he doesn't aspire for the fruits of action. Of course, he would not aspire for fruits of action. He owns everything anyway. So he says, one who understands this truth about me, that's us, talking about us, will also say, I submit myself to Krishna, and Krishna does not deal with the material energy the way people think that are karmis. So I also won't deal with the material energy like that. In that way, our mind turns to Krishna, and our actions are also Krishna conscious. In that way, we get to go back to the spiritual world, where, as we talked about, the real happiness is. Nobody is in anxiety for anything. That's home for us. So, as we are in this lifetime in human bodies, this is the time to take advantage of this particular lifetime, so that first, things are going to get worse, so it's best to finish this life and be determined to live a devotee life to the extent that the Lord will give mercy and the Guru will give mercy, so we can go back home, back to the spiritual world. Or even if we were born in the material world, born in a place where Krishna is performing his pastimes. See, Prabhupada explains, if we go to a place where Krishna is there performing pastimes, and we are with either manjaris or being trained to understand, we are already with Krishna. It's already successful. One may go to the spiritual world or may go to the place where Krishna is performing his pastime in the material world. It's the same. They are with Krishna. You go to the spiritual world, you're with Krishna. Golok Vrindavan. You're with Krishna in the place where he's performing his pastime, you are with Krishna. And that's the important thing. Once you're with Krishna, then you're wherever he is. He goes back to the spiritual world, you go back to the spiritual world. Like that. So we should really, really, really count ourselves lucky for what we have here and take Krishna consciousness seriously. Take advantage of all the mercy that Srila Prabhupada has given us making the spiritual life, the requirements, not as stringent as they could be. Take advantage of it. Then we'll be successful. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for coming to listen, and we all get the benefits of the advice by Srila Prabhupada and the wonderful attributes of Krishna, hearing that. So this is the time to unmute yourself. If you have a question, you can ask. If you have a comment that you want to make, you can make that comment. If you have a takeaway that you want to talk about, that is also for the benefit of everyone who's listening, and those who will listen later on YouTube, then you can do that also. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I guess we can, the announcements. Well, we know the Rati is coming up. Those who may not know, I see some new people on here. Harrisburg ISKCON is having Rati on the 20th. Not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. Not this week Saturday, next week Saturday, 12 o'clock to 5 at City Island. You don't know where it is, it doesn't matter. Just go to your maps, Google Maps, and then type in City Island, and you get the directions to go to City Island. Very, very, very simple these days because of technology. So, again, contributions are being sought. If you want to contribute, and of course, it's all every theater is quite expensive, and so you can go to iskanharrisburg.org//donate, and where you donate to online, it will go to the theater account for the pleasure of for the Buddhists to serve for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. This Sunday is graduation of the Sunday school kids, so that also will take place in the temple. And those who may not know about the temple, every Sunday 4:30 we have a program, and then from there is at the very end lecture, rhati, and Srila Prabhupada's Guru Puja, and then at the very end we have prasadam. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. Thank you.